You can't do this to us. I gripped the doorframe of the beach house that had been my home for the last 5 years. We took care of Grandpa Jack. We were here every day. Evelyn Marshall, my mother-in-law, merely raised a perfectly penciled eyebrow. The will is quite clear, Lauren. The beach house goes to the family trust, and as trustees, we decided it needs to be sold. I looked desperately at my husband Tim, who stood awkwardly between us. But he just stared at the weathered deck boards, avoiding both our eyes. At 36, I thought I understood family dynamics. Married into the wealthy Marshall clan 10 years ago, I'd navigated their country club politics and social expectations, but nothing had prepared me for this betrayal. We moved here to take care of Grandpa Jack, I reminded them. Quit our jobs in Seattle, left our apartment. He asked us to come. And we appreciated that. Richard Marshall, my father-in-law, stepped forward. But Jack's gone now, and this property is too valuable to sit idle. The market's hot. We could get $8 million easily. The October wind whipped off the Pacific, carrying salt and memories. This house on Oregon's Cannon Beach had been Grandpa Jack's pride and joy. He'd built it himself in the 1960s, raised his family here, created a legacy of summer gatherings and holiday celebrations. 5 years ago, when his Parkinson's got worse, he'd asked Tim and me to move in. I trust you too, he'd said, blue eyes twinkling despite his trembling hands. You'll take care of this old place, keep its spirit alive. We'd done exactly that. I'd left my job as an environmental lawyer, Tim his position as a high school teacher. We'd spent our savings renovating the house, making it accessible for Grandpa Jack's declining mobility, while preserving its historic charm. More importantly, we'd given him a family life in his final years. Morning coffee on the deck watching the waves. Evening games of chess that took hours because of his shaking hands. Weekend visits from his great-grandchildren, filling the house with laughter again. You can't just throw us out, I tried again. We have rights. Actually, Richard pulled out a document. You don't. The house was never transferred to you. Jack's will places everything in the family trust. Here's your official notice. You have 30 days to vacate. My mind raced. But Grandpa Jack said he changed his will. Last summer, he had his lawyer come to the house. Poor dear was quite confused near the end, Evelyn said smoothly. All that medication. This is the only legal will on file. Dated 3 years ago. I knew she was lying. Grandpa Jack had been sharp until the end, his mind clear even when his body failed. He'd made changes to his will. I'd seen the lawyer, seen Jack sign papers. Tim, I turned to my husband. You were there. Tell them. But Tim just shifted uncomfortably. Lauren, maybe we should just start looking for a new place. Dad's right about the market being hot. I stared at him, this man I'd loved for 12 years, suddenly a stranger. When had he become so spineless? So eager to please his parents instead of honoring his grandfather's wishes? Fine, I straightened my spine. We'll need time to pack. Of course, Evelyn smiled triumphantly. Take all the time you need. Within 30 days, naturally. They left us standing there, the autumn wind growing colder. I watched their luxury SUV disappear down the private road, my mind already working. Lauren, Tim started. I know you're upset. Don't. I cut him off. Just don't. I walked down to the beach, needing space to think. The waves crashed endlessly, unchanging despite human dramas. Grandpa Jack had taught me to surf here, laughing at my wipeouts, celebrating my first successful ride. The ocean teaches us patience, he'd said. And timing. Know when to ride the wave, when to dive under it. Time to dive deep. That night, after Tim fell asleep, I made 3 calls. First to Maria Santos, Grandpa Jack's part-time nurse for the last 2 years. Then to David Chen, my old law school friend who specialized in estate litigation. Finally, to Carol Weber, Grandpa Jack's housekeeper of 30 years. I was wondering when you'd call, Carol said. I saw those vultures circling before Jack was even cold. Did you know about the will changes? I asked. Know about them? Honey, I witnessed them. Jack was clear as a bell that day. Said he wanted to make sure you and Tim kept the house, kept his legacy alive. Any idea what happened to those papers? She hesitated. No, but funny thing. The day after Jack passed, I saw Evelyn in his study. She was going through his files like a woman possessed. I made notes, my legal training kicking in. Would you be willing to make a statement? Better than that. Carol's voice dropped. I've got videos. Jack asked me to record some of his conversations that last month. Said he didn't trust certain people to honor his wishes. My heart leaped. Videos. On my phone and backed up to the cloud, including the day he signed the new will. Want to guess who else was there besides the lawyer? Who? Evelyn. Standing right there, watching him sign, looking like she'd swallowed a lemon. I smiled for the first time since the confrontation. Carol, you're an angel. Can you send me those videos? Already done. Check your email. She paused. Lauren? Make them pay. Not for the money. Jack never cared about that. But for trying to destroy what he built. After hanging up, I checked my email. The videos were there, crystal clear. Grandpa Jack, tired but lucid, stating his wishes. The lawyer presenting documents, the signing, and Evelyn, hovering in the background, her face a mask of barely concealed rage. I watched them twice, making sure I hadn't missed anything. Then I called David back. How solid is this? I asked after forwarding him the videos. Very. Documented intent, witness signing, clear mental capacity, plus proof that Evelyn knew about the changes, if the new was missing. She took it, I said with certainty, probably destroyed it. That's fraud. David's voice hardened. Criminal charges possible, but we need more. Bank records, witness statements, documentation of your care for Jack. I kept everything. I assured him. Every receipt, every medical record, every renovation invoice. Good. Don't confront them yet. Let me do some digging first. If Evelyn destroyed legal documents. I thought about my mother-in-law's smug face, her certainty that she'd won. How long? Give me 2 weeks. And Lauren? Document everything from now on. Every conversation, every interaction. We're going to need it. After hanging up, I walked through the silent house. Moonlight streamed through the windows Grandpa Jack and I had restored together, highlighting the family photos on the walls. Here was Tim teaching Jack's great-grandchildren to fish off the deck. There was our last Christmas together, Jack beaming despite his tremors as he watched the kids open presents. This wasn't just a valuable property to be sold. It was a home, a legacy, a piece of family history, and I wasn't going to let them destroy it. In our bedroom, Tim slept on, oblivious to the battle ahead. I wondered if he'd stand with me when the truth came out or if he'd cave to his parents' pressure again. But that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, I had work to do, evidence to gather, statements to prepare, a case to build. Grandpa Jack had trusted me to protect his legacy. Time to show the marshals exactly what an environmental lawyer turned beach house guardian could do. 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation and strategic patience. While Evelyn and Richard made plans to list the beach house, I built our case. Maria Santos provided detailed records of Grandpa Jack's mental state in his final months. Carol shared more videos showing his lucidity and determination to protect the property. Then David's investigation struck gold. Found something interesting, he said during our secure video call. The lawyer who came to the house that day, Thomas Henderson, he kept a digital scan of the new will before giving Jack the original. My heart raced. And he had a heart attack 2 days after Jack died. Been in a coma ever since. His office was reorganized during his absence. Files deleted, papers shredded. Want to guess who his estate planning assistant was? Who? Rebecca Marshall, Evelyn's niece. The pieces clicked together. They hadn't just stolen and destroyed the new will. They tried to erase all evidence of its existence. That's not all, David continued. I pulled the trust's financial records. They've already accepted offers on 3 properties that were supposedly protected. The beach house would make 4. They're liquidating assets that should be preserved for future generations. Can we prove it? With the videos, witness statements, and Henderson's scan. Absolutely. Plus, destroying legal documents and interfering with an estate is criminal conduct. They won't just lose control of the trust. They could face charges. I thought about Tim, still wavering between loyalty to his parents and honoring his grandfather's wishes. He'd grown increasingly distant as I gathered evidence, spending more time at his parents' estate in Portland. When do we move? I asked. They're hosting some kind of announcement party at the beach house this weekend, right? Perfect time to serve papers. Maximum impact. The celebration was Evelyn's idea, a gathering to announce the property's listing with an exclusive real estate agency. She'd invited potential buyers, real estate professionals, and family members to showcase the house's potential. I spent the days leading up to it carefully preparing. Every document organized, every witness statement notarized, every video backed up securely. The hardest part was keeping quiet when Tim asked if I'd started packing. Just some personal items, I said vaguely, still figuring out where we'll go. The day of the party dawned bright and clear. October sunlight sparkled on the waves as caterers and event staff transformed our home into a luxury showcase. Evelyn had even hired a string quartet to play on the deck. I dressed carefully, a professional black dress, pearl earrings that had been a gift from Grandpa Jack. Power outfit for a power move. "You're coming to the party?" Tim asked, surprised to see me dressed up. Wouldn't miss it. The house filled with Newport's elite by 4 o'clock. I watched Evelyn hold court in the great room, pointing out original features to potential buyers. Richard discussed property values with investment bankers. Tim hovered uncertainly near the bar. I waited until Evelyn clinked her glass for attention. "Welcome, everyone," she beamed at the crowd. "We're so excited to announce that this beautiful property, a true piece of Oregon coast history, will soon be available for the discerning buyer." Actually, I stepped forward. There's been a change of plans. David and 2 sheriff's deputies entered from the deck. Carol and Maria stood ready near the stairs. My moment had come. "What is the meaning of this?" Richard demanded. "Perhaps we should explain," David said smoothly, opening his briefcase. "I'm David Chin, estate litigation attorney. We're here to present evidence of will tampering, fraud, and criminal interference with estate execution." The room went silent. Evelyn's champagne glass trembled slightly. "This is ridiculous," she started, but I was already setting up my laptop, connecting it to the large TV screen. "Let's watch something interesting," I suggested, "from last summer." The video played crystal clear, Grandpa Jack sitting in his favorite chair, speaking directly to the camera. "I, Jackson Marshall, being of sound mind, want to record my wishes." His voice rang strong despite his trembling hands. "This house goes to Tim and Lauren. They've cared for me, preserved my home, kept the family spirit alive. The trust can manage the other properties, but this place, this stays in the family, stays loved and lived in." Another clip, Jack signing the new will, lawyer Henderson witnessing. And there in the background, Evelyn watching, her face dark with anger. "That proves nothing," Richard blustered. Jack was confused. Actually, Maria stepped forward. As his nurse, I documented his mental state daily. He was completely lucid until the end. "I've provided sworn testimony. And I witnessed everything," Carol added, including Mrs. Marshall going through Jack's files the day after he died. The deputies moved closer as David laid out more evidence. Henderson's scanned copy of the will, trust records showing the unauthorized property sales, documentation of the law office break-in. "This is what's going to happen," David announced to the stunned crowd. "The beach house stays with Lauren and Tim, as legally documented in Jack's final will. The trust will be audited and restructured under court supervision." And he nodded to the deputies. "Mrs. Marshall will need to answer some questions about destruction of legal documents." "You can't prove anything," Evelyn snapped, but her polished veneer was cracking. "Actually," I smiled, "we can prove everything. The only question is whether you'll face charges for fraud or for a larger conspiracy of estate interference." The party dissolved into chaos. Potential buyers fled, social embarrassment outweighing real estate interests. Richard huddled with his lawyers while Evelyn alternated between threats and attempts at damage control. Through it all, I watched Tim. He stood frozen, staring at the video of his grandfather still playing silently on the TV screen. Finally, he walked over to me. "You did all this? Built this case? Someone had to protect his legacy, to honor his wishes. Why didn't you tell me?" I met his eyes steadily. "Would you have stood with me against them, or warned them in time to hide more evidence?" He flinched, but didn't deny it. We both knew he would have chosen his parents' side again. The aftermath was both better and worse than expected. Evelyn faced criminal charges for destroying legal documents. Richard was removed as trustee. The unauthorized property sales were reversed. Tim and I had our own reckoning to face. "I can't believe you went behind my back," he said later that night. "I can't believe you were willing to let them steal your grandfather's legacy," I countered. "The man who raised you after your mom died, who gave us this home, who trusted us to protect it." He was quiet for a long time, watching the waves through the windows his grandfather had built. "I've always done what they wanted," he finally said, "taken the easy path. Let them dictate everything. And now." He turned to me, something new in his eyes. Respect? Determination? "Now I think it's time I learned to stand up for what's right." It wasn't an instant fix, but it was a start. Tim began therapy, working through years of family manipulation. I focused on restoring the house to its former glory, honoring Grandpa Jack's vision. Evelyn and Richard eventually pleaded guilty to reduced charges, heavy fines instead of jail time. The trust was reorganized with independent oversight. Family relationships were strained, but somehow that felt healthier than the previous facade of perfection. 1 year later, we hosted our first family gathering since the confrontation. Not a fancy party, but a simple barbecue on the deck. Tim's cousins brought their kids, who played on the beach just like previous generations had. Carol and Maria came, sharing stories about Grandpa Jack. Even some of the more distant relatives who'd supported us attended, bringing new appreciation for the house's history and meaning. Standing in the kitchen that evening, washing dishes with Tim, I felt Grandpa Jack's presence in every beam and board. "You know what's funny?" Tim said, drying a plate. "I always thought Mom and Dad's way was sophisticated, all about property values and social status. But Grandpa, he knew the real value of things." I looked around at the worn wooden floors, the handmade cabinets, the windows perfectly placed to catch both sunrise and sunset. He built something meant to last, I agreed. Not just the house, but the family memories it holds. Later, we sat on the deck watching the stars emerge over the Pacific. The same view Grandpa Jack had loved, unchanged by time or human drama. "Think we did the right thing?" Tim asked softly. I thought about the kids playing on the beach today, the family recipes still cooking in the kitchen, the legacy preserved for future generations. "I think we did what Grandpa Jack knew we would do," I said. "We protected something precious, not just property, but purpose." The waves crashed endlessly below, their rhythm a reminder of nature's permanence against human schemes. Somewhere, I knew, Grandpa Jack was smiling. Some legacies aren't measured in money or market value. They're measured in love, in memories, in the courage to stand up for what matters most. And those are worth fighting for.